My deepest fear is not that I am inadequate. My deepest fear is that I am powerful beyond measure. It is my light, not my darkness, that most frightens me. I ask myself, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, fabulous? Actually, who am I not to be? I am a child of the universe, and my playing small does not serve the world. There is nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around me. We are all meant to shine, as children do. We were born to make manifest the glory of the universe that is within us. It is not just in some of us, it is in everyone. And as I let my own light shine, I unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. As I am liberated from my own fear, my presence automatically liberates others. Well, hello friends, here we are. I'm finally back. Episode 5 of the deMysticism podcast. So these are my sacred conversations around radical self-love. And I did not record an episode last week because I was on vacation in Kauai. And I had thought I was going to record from there. And as it turns out, I was just not really feeling like something that I wanted to do. We were departing on Monday, the day that I typically record. Just didn't really fit into the schedule. And I thought, rather than put pressure on myself, I don't have a huge listenership right now. So if you're listening, thank you. And, giving myself some grace. And I think that is a beautiful lead in for today's topic, today's conversation that I'd like to have, because coming off the heels of a beautiful opportunity to spend some time in the salt water and the sun and the sand and really step out of ordinary everyday life and be free and relaxed was magic. It was the medicine that I really, truly needed in that moment. I was there to celebrate a good friend's birthday. That was what she wanted to do, to celebrate a milestone birthday of her own, was to just hang out in Kauai with some friends. And so that was a beautiful gift to me to be able to enjoy as well. And I think one of the things that is really resonating with me is the idea of, when we're talking about wanting to create our lives, when we are looking to lean into more abundance and prosperity, or maybe stepping into a new chapter. This is something that I'm currently in. The idea that goes so much better when we can be relaxed. So the energy of attracting those ideas of abundance, prosperity, it kind of takes softening. It's all, so much always comes back to allowing, and how do we align with this free energy, and particularly as feminine beings in today's world. And obviously this is going to be what I relate to most in my own experience. So, we have to dance delicately in these conversations today, but I think that I have seen within a lot of my friends this symptom of being a woman in today's world, and particularly in the generation that I'm in, where we have cultivated this sense of having to do everything, and we have to operate quite frequently in our masculine energy, which would be the energy of doing and work and action. And it almost hinders us from really leaning back and softening into what we would call the feminine energy of receiving and just that softness. And so, having had the opportunity to have so many days, we had very few days there that were scheduled. We had a few things that we had made reservations for where we had to be somewhere at a certain time, but the majority of the time was just kind of bumbling around and seeing what struck our fancy in the moment. And that was so, so beautiful to be able to just decide if we're hungry, we're going to go eat, or we feel like finding a beach and we'd wander around and took a little longer than we thought to get there, and that's okay. And that is not the paradigm that many of us live in today's world. So as I come back into the quote unquote real world and try to live in this, I'm very fortunate to be in a place where now I'm creating my own way of work, my own way of scheduling myself, and having had the experience of, I really love that freedom and what that freedom then brings to me. How do I recreate that in my everyday life? So obviously there needs to be structure. And I think, some of us do well in very open-ended time. Some of us need some structure in our lives. But regardless, how does it sit for you? What does that idea of freedom and the luxury of putting your energy where it most aligns for you in the moment, how does that show up for you? How can you create that type of life for yourself? And I can say that, I have come from a corporate world. I've shared on this podcast that that's where I was just released from earlier in the spring. I worked in that kind of environment for most of my adult life, so I understand the idea that, things happen at a certain time. I'm still currently a yoga teacher and a sound healer, and I do things that do happen on a scheduled basis, and I'm very mindful when I am teaching and leading classes of people's time. So I'm not necessarily advocating that we throw time out the window, but how do we craft a life that allows our souls to feel soft and relaxed, and waking up in the morning and honoring what that day needs to bring to you for you to feel the most aligned with that sense of relaxation. So it also leans into the idea of how we create our income, right? Let's not dance around the fact that money is still how we survive in this world. It is still what provides us with food and shelter and clothing. And so it is something that we create. And I believe that money is an energy. So how do we work with that energy? And how does that energy represent everything else in our life, right? We've often heard that quote, the way you do one thing is the way that you do everything. So how can we do everything from a greater sense of relaxation? And this is a question I'm asking myself too. I am not coming at this like I know exactly how to do that. I'm learning. I'm getting better at it. Those that are close to me will probably attest to the fact that I am not always fully relaxed. I can be at times a little high strung, a little stressed out. I think driving is one of my areas of tension, or at least passengering is one of my areas of tension. So, we all have our things. I'm only sharing that so that I don't sound like I am a holier than thou. I know exactly how to get everybody relaxed, but I am cultivating this awareness of my energy in a way that when I feel it being anxious or I feel myself being tense, how do I soften and relax about that? And how do I soften and relax about how I'm bringing money in? And the more that I can do that, the more that I can just lean back and trust, it's pretty interesting how the opportunities show up. And the opportunities that do show up when I can be in that relaxed state are just so aligned. I have had so many things just come up that are a solid yes with no questions asked. And that's beautiful. And then also the ability to recognize that one's one I'm going to pass on, and to not feel bad about that, right? It's following the energy, following that sensation. If something is offered to you, something shows up in your awareness, an opportunity, an invitation, whatever you'd like to call it, if you can feel yourself kind of relaxing, your shoulders feel soft, maybe you almost lean in toward that thing, or you feel your body saying, yeah, that feels really good. I think I'm going to go toward that. Or when you feel that sensation of your shoulders kind of stiffen, or you hunch forward a little bit, or you kind of pull back, these are signals that you can listen to. And when your body feels that reaction of tension, of bracing, then what is it that you need to listen to there? Maybe you need to move in a different direction. Maybe you just need to sit with it. I mean, we all have different ways that we process. In human design, I happen to be a non-emotional sacral authority, which really just means I can make my decisions without having to ride these waves of emotions like those that having emotional authority have to do. If you've got an emotional authority in human design, you probably have to let that all of the emotions flow through before you can find your truth. So it's going to be different for everybody. Your amount of time before you find, okay, I know what the response of my body is, it's going to vary for each of us. I know for me, in my experience, and then once I learned this about myself through human design, it was confirmed. I can know almost immediately if something is for me or if it's not for me. And I can think back to many times in my life where I have felt that sensation of, this does not feel right, but I let my thinking mind convince me that my fears are unjustified or, oh my goodness, excuse me. Not sure why that just came through. Pause on this for a moment. Okay, and I am back. There was a lapse there because it has actually been about 5 hours since I just said pause on that for a moment. Somewhat ironic in the context of the conversation I was having around feeling relaxed and knowing your yes and your no, and what happened in that moment. I'm just going to share it very vulnerably. I record this on my laptop and I had all my devices on Do Not Disturb, yet somehow a text message came through from my daughter's dad, my ex-husband, that really kind of set me afire. So as I am talking about staying in this relaxed state, I let somebody get under my skin. And that is an interesting paradox to the conversation that I was rambling on about. So I'm going to just take it right back to the idea of relaxation. I had my reaction. It maybe wasn't the best, but I also did allow myself to state my truth in a response. Maybe not in the most articulate way. However, it is a truth that I previously probably would have just held on to. And I let some of his words, his responses, really get to me. So it is now 5 hours later. I went to a yoga class, I taught a yoga class, and I have brought myself back to grounded and centered. So it's something worth speaking to. This is an organic podcast and I don't script it, and sometimes life throws some little plot twist in there. So I'm gonna take it back to the idea of practicing relaxation and practicing how we respond. So when we allow other people's words or actions to hit a nerve and trigger us, I think we give ourselves grace. I think, the start of this podcast, I believe I mentioned giving myself grace for the fact that I didn't record the podcast last week. Well, now I'm going to give myself some grace for allowing myself to get a little ruffled. And I'm human, and I also have the tools to bring myself back and get back into this state of softening and knowing exactly who I am, regardless of anyone else's opinion of me. It's not my worry. What you think of me really is not my business, to be honest. It's what I think of me that matters most. And when we can bring ourselves back to this caring love, I speak to this all the time in my classes about self-love and loving ourselves when we screw up, loving ourselves when we aren't the best versions of ourselves, and allowing ourselves to return to the version of ourselves that we would really like to be. So try to bring this full circle and kind of wrap it up, because I don't like for these to be too long. But I want to invite you, if you are listening, it is Monday, August 4th as I record this. We have a full moon cycle coming up on Saturday, the 9th, which is right after the Lion's Gate 8/8, which is a date that some people like to recognize and work on manifestations. So as we work with that full moon energy, maybe we can lean into, what do we need to let go of to allow ourselves to be more relaxed, to be more soft and confident in our own unfolding, in our life's unfolding, in following our passions, in trusting that we are going in the right direction, that we will be provided for as long as we are following our hearts. What does that mean to you? What does it mean to you to soften, to relax, to be able to exhale? Like, do that right now. Deep breath in and then exhale. Just feel your body soften, feel your shoulders soften. And just with that intention, can you feel a little more relaxed, a little more open to receiving? So if I speak back to the idea that many of us that would feel like or call ourselves feminine beings might be struggling sometimes to soften into that energy and to be okay with receiving. It's not easy. It's not easy when you have cultivated such a sense of, I have to do everything. I have to carry everything for everyone. It's almost this martyr complex. But coming into this idea of, I can relax and trust that it's safe for me to receive. And the energy of money, if we're speaking toward that, it's not really any different than any other kind of masculine energy. And when we allow it to come toward us, how does that feel? Can you allow it to come toward you? Can you relax? Can you soften your shoulders? Can you take the bracing out of your belly, right? Like, we hold our stomachs in and then we prevent ourselves from breathing deeply. And there's tension. And whether it's invisible, other people might not see it at all. You might not even know it's there because you're so used to holding that tension. So anytime that you are aware of it, take 3 deep breaths and deeply exhale, and then feel that sensation of relaxation and try to allow that to radiate out so that you can feel good in the receiving, whatever it looks like. So whether it's receiving a smile from someone, receiving a compliment, right? There's one we often struggle with. A simple thank you when someone says something kind will do. You don't have to be self-deprecating. You don't have to negate it. Thank you, received. That's all you have to say. Practice that, small steps, and then it becomes easier to receive more and to receive in other ways. I'm going to leave it at that. This was an interesting recording with a little interlude that maybe you won't notice, but thank you so much for listening. I will bring this back around next week. I don't know what we will be talking about. I have many learnings to take from that week's vacation and then just some other things that happened since then. It is a very, very cool adventure to be on right now, and I'm really grateful to be sharing it. So if you are listening, I appreciate it. Have a great week. I'll talk to you next time.